Did you know that if you go to Poland, in September to be exact, and go up north a little bit, you will reach a medieval castle in Bytów where one of the coolest extreme metal festivals takes place? Oh, you didn't? Well then, you're in for a treat because I'm about to take you around this year's edition of Thunderfest. Let's go! This year's edition of Thunderfest featured 9 bands, including all of the variety of extreme metal subgenres, and including one of the coolest bands out there, no matter if we're speaking about the Polish extreme metal or international like recognition and so on. This year had it all, and as you could see, the ambience of the castle itself made everything really cool. Everything was kept basically inside the castle, as you could have seen. The merch booths and so on were outside to like give people inside a bit more space, which is like always needed, as we know. It was really cool to see how the castle was changing as it was getting darker. I think the bands that kind of played around 6 and 7 p.m, so like the exact moment when it was slowly getting dark, they had the best time slot, high-key, because the sky looked so pretty, this castle looks beautiful, and it kind of made their music stand out even more. I suppose the organization of the festival is definitely one of the selling point, so to speak, not only the place, but I mean the timetable, and everything was so punctual. There were actually no delays, which, as you probably know, is almost unheard of when it comes to festivals. It was the case here. Like, basically, you go on stage, get the hell out, and no one was trying to kind of fight it. And I thought it was really great because people who were coming in during the festival for one of the artists that were supposed to play later on, they still could have joined, like knowing they won't miss anything, and I thought that was really cool. The other thing I really liked personally is that once you've gotten the wristband, you could have like left the festival grounds and come back, which is great because, you know, the festival takes place inside a castle. There's not a lot of things to do there except stand by the stage or sit if you're lucky enough to find a space to sit down. So the way that people were like kind of going out, going in, it was really cool. The atmosphere was really chill, people were super nice, and they also had a lot of fun, but that was kind of to be expected, right? You can also, what I thought was really fun, that you could see by the battle vests from a lot of people that they came from like completely different musical backgrounds, and everyone found something for themselves on this festival, which is obviously great. What a better way to spend a Saturday, right, than 12 hours at the festival? That's so fun, isn't it? Like, my back, well, had a different opinion about it, but you know, that's what you get for getting old slowly, so it's all good, it's all good. Yeah, the only thing that kind of caught my eye is that, you know, you had 9 bands on stage and not a single woman on stage, and that was kind of like, yeah, it's not that you can't find extreme metal bands with women in them, you just didn't look. And it's not a critique against anyone, it's much more an advice, because I know some people like don't pay attention to that and they simply don't realize it, but it kind of stood out. So it would be great if like next year's edition would kind of sprinkle in some, you know, female fronted, maybe all female bands, because they usually make the sickest music out there. So what do we have to lose? Absolutely nothing. We can only gain some more sick sounds, and that's what it's all about, right? Yeah, before we get to like the exact rundown of the bands that played, my opinion, videos, photos, and so on, I'm just gonna tell you really quick how it's gonna work. Basically, we're gonna speak about the bands in the order they performed, meaning like Meaning like the bands you are probably here for are gonna be towards the end, but don't skip. There are timestamps, but don't skip. You have to listen some of the bands that played, because I was mind blown. So better stick around, okay? Okay? Perfect. Great. So without further ado, let's get to the first band. The first band was actually a surprise band. You didn't know who they were up until the moment they went on stage. I think that was a great idea. You only knew that they are doing grindcore, which is not a genre I listen to regularly, but it's a genre I have a massive respect for, because people who make it, they're so chill, they just don't care. I think that's like the coolest thing ever. I thought that was so cool. And then the guy kind of went on stage and he was like, yeah, we're gonna start right away, you know, because we gotta fit in the 30 songs during the 30-minute set. They were so cool. And people really liked them, I think. Like, no one knew who they were except like their friends and family. But some people, like on the festival, they were really interested in this particular band. They were called h.i.v, which is a crazy ass band name, let me tell you. But yeah, they were really cool. And you know, you see the most random looking dudes, they go on stage, they put out some incredible music, and you know the festival is gonna be good. So I think not only the fact that it was a surprise set and a surprise band, but also how chill they were. It kind of introduced this really great energy into the festival itself, and it kind of showed people that even if you don't know all of the bands that are performing, it's still worth kind of walking around to listen to them. Like, don't go out, just listen to them. Maybe you're gonna discover something really cool. Speaking of discovering something really cool, the second band that played, Garota, was one of my discoveries of the night. And they were so fucking cool. It is a bit of a quintessence of like a raw underground black metal with like very audible Polish black metal influences, but it's absolutely excellent. You can tell by the videos you're gonna see or you've already seen that they know what they're doing and they are executing the kind of musical vision they have exactly on stage. Like, you think they sound a bit rusty, yeah, it's because they're supposed to sound like that. You think something, yeah, it's because they're supposed to do that. I think they're extremely well thought through as a band, both when it comes to music, like lyrics wise. I think their lyrics are so cool because they're so 90s coded when it comes to black metal. I think it's excellent. They've released an album in 2025, which I've listened to yesterday, and it's so fucking good. Like, I really recommend you to check out the song Per Mortem Ad Astra. It is delicious, chef's kiss. And they were actually really entertaining live. They're on tour this autumn, so I hope I will catch them there. They actually go like by the label black thrash metal, but I think it's more of black, because you know, when you hear like black thrash metal, you think Niflheim, and that's not what they do. So I think it's safer to just stick to the black metal label, because they still have like very versatile influences you can recognize in their music. They did really good, and I really recommend you to check them out if you like this really old school coded black metal. If you enjoy sound like that, you're gonna love them. The third band that performed was, it's a bit of a pickle, you know, because if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that death and thrash metal are the territories I do not go to. Terra incognita, completely. We don't really go there. And yet this year I found like 5 bands in this exact genre that I really like. And this next band, Pandemic Outbreak, was exactly this case. They were so fun. Basically, you don't really needed any introduction of them. Of course, like, you know, the organizer was like saying a couple of words about the bands that were coming on stage, but you really didn't need to introduce them. You could just look at the band t-shirts they were wearing and you knew what music they were gonna play, and they executed it really, really well. They were so focused, they were like so locked in, and people loved it. People loved it because, you know, there is this thing about like thrash specifically that doesn't really require you to set the atmosphere for you to perform. You just go on stage and you do your own thing, and that's exactly what they did, and yet they still managed to kind of gather the attention of people who probably didn't know them beforehand. And I think that's a huge thing to do, and that's very, very impressive. They're both technically, both when it comes to like energy on stage, they were pros, and I really, really enjoyed their set. I'm definitely gonna add some of their songs to like my gym playlist, because that's the sound we are going for when we're there, when we're like trying to get shredded for some reason. So yeah, this is definitely a band that will join me during that sessions, because they were really, really impressive, and I genuinely was incredibly surprised that we have yet another band from the genre I don't really vibe to that surprised me so positively once again. I think that's great. The next band was another black metal band. See, we're having a bit of a pattern there, you know? So we're having black metal, non-black metal, black metal, non-black metal. And I think that's good, because while you can go on black metal alone, maybe sometimes it's better not to. So the next band was a black metal band. They're called Dominance, and I have not heard of them before, and that's a bit of a funny thing, like looking at them on stage. I kind of expected Garota to be making the music Dominance does, and Dominance to be making music Garota does. It's a bit of a tanglement, but I hope you get what I mean. But yeah, when it comes to Dominance, I really, really liked their set and their performance in general. I was very surprised to actually hear some of like the very American black metal coded sound from them. They almost sounded like Judas Iscariot at times, and that's a huge compliment coming from me, by the way. And you could tell that, you know, with every band, like people were flowing to the stage, not just to have a better spot for the later bands, but also because the bands are being so good. Hello, I'm gonna go to the stage, and they did. And you could tell that people enjoyed their set immensely. Like, even if they were like not really familiar with them before, they definitely did enjoy it afterwards. Another band, and you can see they took that shit really seriously, you know? It doesn't matter kind of what festival you're playing at. You're playing at a festival. People are gonna be there. People who didn't know you, but may actually get to like you, depending on how you perform. And every single band kind of got that memo, and you could see that everyone was locked in the best possible way. They were just so focused on everything. They were making sure like everything sounds perfectly. They were like revising things 10 fucking times. And it paid off, definitely, because, you know, I haven't heard of Dominance before, and then I will listen to them again. I haven't heard of Pandemic Outbreak either, and their songs are on my gym playlist. So, you know, I think that's the magic of like extreme metal festivals, that once you are into extreme metal, there are actually no closed doors for you. Because even if you don't really dabble into, for example, thrash, as I do, you still can find bands that you like, even if you don't dig the entire genre. Even if you don't really like black metal, maybe you're gonna hear a black metal band that's really death metal influenced, and you're gonna enjoy them still. So I think extreme metal has this kind of thing of these fluctuations of sounds and influences, and it makes it really easy to like find new bands you may like, and that's exactly what was happening in here. And then the next band was my absolute favorite, and I'm saying that you better hold to your fucking seat, because we had a dungeon synth duo. so good. They're called Alembik, and they're actually, I think they're from my hometown actually, which is great. See, great minds think alike. I know that. It was such a good idea to put a dungeon synth project into a festival taking place in a castle, because it was like slowly getting dark at this time, and the music was just a direct reflection of the atmosphere of the festival itself, and I thought it would be so difficult to achieve with any other music genre other than dungeon synth. They were just perfect, absolutely perfect. I've heard a lot of people kind of question, like, what the hell is a dungeon synth project doing at an extreme metal festival? But I actually see the point in a way that, you know how black metal and dungeon synth in the 90s were kind of influencing each other kind of often, and they actually still do at times. So you can see black metal musicians making dungeon synth and the other way around. But it also shows like the more atmospheric side of the genre that may be coded in like the more extreme sound, and especially with the dungeon synth Alembik is doing, they have this a bit of a very like creepy medieval alchemy coded sound to them. And they actually go on stage with, and the one guy has like huge pest doctor mask, and it's you have no idea what they're about to do. You see these two random dudes on stage, you see like this candles, like candle pictures in the background. It's slowly getting darker, and you hear the most insane sounds and ambient music you could have ever imagined. Difficult to top that band choice with any other, and I'm being so serious right now, not only because I like them so much during that festival, but also because I think dungeon synth does belong to extreme metal territory, even if it doesn't sound like that. It stems from a very similar place, and I think it's the exact reason why they were put into the lineup, and I think they couldn't execute it better. It was just perfect. When you look for their like albums, for instance, you know, when you're writing a promo text and you want to sell an album, you have to think of an artist that sounds a bit similar, and they were being compared to Fongraven, so like to Fjelltronen, so this like dungeon synth album of Satyr from Satyricon. And you know one thing about me and Satyricon, I'm gonna eat that shit up. So yeah, Fjelltronen is one of my favorite albums of all times. And while I did not hear like direct influences in Alembik's music, it was still the very similar atmosphere, like almost hypnotizing. And you don't even feel the time passing between songs or anything, because they don't talk during their set either. So it's just this very kind of surreal experience, and I think it being located in an actual castle made it even better. So definitely check out Alembik if you can't sleep and you want to fall asleep faster, if you play D&D, and if you like good music. Free conditions, you have to check out Alembik. Do it right now and come back to listen about the other bands. The next band was the Black Thunder, which is, I think, the band the organizer is in. Which, like, I would do a self-promo too, don't get me wrong. I would do the exact same thing, definitely. And, you know, there is this case of bands that do everything right. That, you know, they're technically very good, the songs are very well structured, but somehow you still can't really dive into this music as you would like. And that was exactly me with the Black Thunder. Like, they had some parts of their songs that made me kind of excited for their set, and then it went to nowhere. Like, they are a very good band. So I think if you like this very mixed metal sound with kind of doom influences, it may definitely be for you. You can tell Well, they are from Biduf, so like from the city the festival takes place in, and you could tell people know them, and I thought that was so sweet. Like they knew people in the audience as well, and I thought that was so cool. Like you actually see that even like smaller cities, you have like the metal community, and you could tell they were having so much fun performing. Their energy on stage is incredible, and I think when they play in clubs, it's not a joke. I think I would definitely like to see them again, maybe in a club or like a really small place, because I'm convinced people would go crazy, and I'm so willing to be a part of it again. Because now I'm familiar with their music a bit, right? I know what to expect, so it can be even better and I can have even more fun. That's so true. Now we go to the big three, you can say. So the bands like the majority of people were looking forward to this particular night, and this big three was being opened by Azarath. They're this black/death metal band. They're stemmed back from the 90s, so they do have a history, and you can tell they have a history and they have years of experience by their sound. Their set is absolutely like brutal, just fucking ruthless. Like they're gonna blow you away, and that's quite literally. Like there's no break, insanely intense set. The technical execution is mind-blowing, and they're so chill as well. I thought that was absolutely incredible. I personally really enjoyed their demos, and I've never seen them live before, and it was more than I could like ever wished for. They were insane. I mean, like, even if you double quite a lot in like extreme metal, they're like extreme, and they're so fucking good at it. You need to give them a listen if you haven't heard of them before, or you have to listen to them more if you heard them previously. But yeah, it was crazy. And you could tell they have like a hardcore fan base already, and people were into it. And I was into it as well. It was just perfect. The next band was Furia. Furia is a bit of a black metal royalty in Poland. If you're familiar with them, you know that Furia stands for something. I think they did make something for themselves that very few bands worldwide kind of managed to achieve, meaning that they developed that kind of very specific sound for them. When it comes to both the music, the lyrics, the cultural influences, the kind of general atmosphere, that it's so difficult to replicate. Like there will always be the only ones doing that well, even though they do. You can tell they influence a lot of like younger bands that perform nowadays, especially in Poland and in Silesia, but no one will ever do it like Furia does. I've never seen Furia live. I've seen their kind of twin group. I've seen Massmort live once. It was crazy, but I really wanted to see Furia. So it was my first time seeing them, and dare I say it exceeded my expectations. It was absolutely, and I can't even find words to describe it. It was just everything. Like, you've kind of felt like you were taken out from the place you've been the whole day and like transported into a completely different kind of musical reality. They're that good. Like, you almost feel you're being like hypnotized, and you don't know really where you are, what you are doing. You're just experiencing the music. You could tell that a lot of people came specifically for them. Like, a lot of people had their like back patches and merch. Like, I think it was even more than Rotting Christ. I think more people had Furia merch on than Rotting Christ merch, and I thought that illustrates so well like what kind of status Furia has. And I think their music is, as I've said, so hard to replicate because it has this very strange flow to it that kind of borders on melancholy, borders on melody, borders on anger, borders on kind of this very nihilistic attitude black metal has developed for itself. I think Furia navigates in between all of this territories black metal usually goes to, and they bring everything together and make something else out of it. I was just so drawn into their set, you can say. Even when I was like taking photos and taking videos like right under the stage, it was still so surreal a bit. It was still like, oh, they're really doing that. That's absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, man, I love Furia. What more can I say? Then, around 11 p.m, it came time for Rotting Christ. After being robbed out of performance time during the Unholy Trinity tour, I was genuinely so hyped for their longer set, and boy did they not disappoint. Basically, the Tolis brothers and the two himbos they bring on stage, they always make sure to put the best show possible. Like, their coordination on stage, you can tell they have it planned, yet it comes off as so seamless and basically so natural. They have this incredible talent to like engage people into their set, even if the audience may not be like familiar with them specifically. This time it wasn't the case, but you get what I mean. They read the audience so well, and they always manage to make people excited for their music. And I think especially in this genre, it is such a hard skill and it's so difficult to master, and they did that. They actually did that, and what more can you say? It is Rotting Christ. I do see Rotting Christ as this kind of live machine. Like, their concerts are not for the weak. Their concerts are not for the people who can't get a bit thrown around in the pit. Those are like the groups of people who would not enjoy Rotting Christ concert. However, when you listen to their live albums, because I think their most recent live album, like the one from Lycabettus, is one of the best live black metal albums ever recorded, period. And you could see a perfect reflection of that exact energy during their performance on Thunderfest. So it's not like they're keeping the best for like the show that's being recorded. Every single show by them is their best show. And it was the exact thing that happened. I was so gagged by the set list. I almost became delusional and thought they're gonna perform Nemesis, which is one of my favorite songs by them. And I was like, yeah, that's totally plausible. Why not? Because, you know, they did perform King of a Stellar War, which was kind of on my bucket list to see Rotting Christ perform that exact song. And it was absolutely everything. I did not expect Non Serviam. I did not expect Inhuman Sibalba, even though they usually perform a lot of songs from Do What You Willed, but this was one thing I genuinely did not count with, and I was so positively surprised. I think I've talked about it earlier on as well, but I think it's so hard to find a better opening for a black metal show than Rotting Christ have with 666. Like, the first time I've seen them, it was actually on the tour promoting this album, and they were opening the show with that song for the first time. And it's crazy to see how it became such a staple in their kind of setlist, because it looks like they were waiting all of these previous years for this song to appear, because it just fits so perfectly. Especially, again, seeing all dark in a fucking castle from 14th century. You have Rotting Christ performing 666. You should definitely go to witness it yourself, but I mean, you can't. But you can believe me, you can trust me that it was a cathartic experience. I am not the same person as I was last week, and Rotting Christ did that to me. In a way, I think Rotting Christ are this kind of black metal chameleon. Like, no matter how you would describe their albums genre-wise, they're still going to bring this very original energy they had with them in the black metal days. And I think it is not an easy thing to do. And I mean, with them being so into live performances. You know, they play live a lot, very frequently. It doesn't really surprise you they play with so many random bands. Like this year, let's say, they played with Behemoth and they played with Creator, so Fresh. See, and they still find like this niche for themselves, no matter what extreme band they're touring with. They will always make people excited for their set, and they will always make their music come across as so natural and fitting to the rest of the show. And this is exactly the thing that happened this time. Not my first time seeing Rotting Christ, and definitely not the last, let me tell you. And they were playing for an hour and a half, and I heard a lot of people going like, oh, that's so short. And yeah, but the set list was so packed, I can't even say anything. I can say anything. I'm just so pleased. I'm so happy. It was, as Sakis would say, a hell of a show, and it was. It was, trust me. King of a Stellar War, non-serviam live, everything I've needed. The night has been complemented successfully. Yeah, this was my little rundown of all of the bands that performed during the 13th edition of Thunderfest in Bytów on September 13th. Hope you've enjoyed this little rundown. Hope you've enjoyed these videos I've inserted as well. Linked below in the description will be my Instagram, when I will post photos and like edits from the festival as well, so be sure to check it out if you liked me talking and yapping about the festival. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Have a nice day, nice night. See you. Bye.